Hey, you guys. So glad that you guys can be joining us. We've got a couple of things that need to get fixed, obviously, on here. One of the things I need to fix is I have to add on an audio output so you guys are going to be able to hear who our guest is today. Our guest is Matt Pavlovsky. He is an online math tutor, and when I was thinking about this whole title of the chapter that we're reading about inside of the magic of thinking big, the first guy that came to my mind that I knew I had to have on was Max, because he loves this stuff as much as I do, and it really can be life changing for a lot of people to be able to do. So we are going to do this. Let's see if we can hear you now. Yep, we
Hello,
can. All
hello.
right.
Test, test.
Yay!
Mhm.
So thanks again, you guys, for joining us. We got Matt Mankin in the house today. Brenda from Michigan. She tutors K-12 and college English reading, speech, and writing. Also SAT and ACT prep. Fantastic. We've got Anna from London. She tutors Latin. I love it. And we also have a Florida math tutor here who is K8. Let's see who that is. Oh, that's Paula Pobletti. She found out how to get on in here. Yay! So glad. I'm so glad that you guys are here to join us to really be able to talk about this topic right here. Build confidence and destroy fear. Okay, so I even had on here, like, from the last time I talked about this chapter, show a Will Smith video, because Will Smith is so dynamic and inspiring, and like you can't leave like just being like taken to a whole nother level when it comes to all of this stuff. So the funny thing is, I was like actually finding this morning, like, oh, which Will Smith video do I want to share with people today? Max was doing the exact same thing, you guys. Not even kidding you. So if you go into the Ultimate Support Group, there is a video for there on how to get onto the other side of fear, which is really, really incredible. And what stood out to you about that particular video, Max?
I saw that video a long time ago, and it really made me think of all the times that I was right at the front of getting ready to do something I was scared to do. Looking, like you said, looking out over this airplane, getting ready to jump a perfectly good airplane. And then from that moment of being terrified and then going 1 second later being in just total ecstasy
Mm-hmm.
for doing it. And I've noticed that with different things. Like when I did my first Facebook Live, I was scared before I went into it.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the things that we're scared of are what actually ends up happening is it's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What was I so afraid of?
Yeah. Yeah. Or it happens and or what you feared happens and it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be.
Right.
And
I
that's okay too.
I think one thing I've learned is that it's not so much fear of something bad happening, is fearing that if something bad happens, we won't be able to handle it.
Mm,
Or that fear of what we might feel like, oh no, I'm going to fall apart. But if something bad happens, you just deal with it. Like,
exactly.
how many, I mean, you've done so many videos, how many of them have not gone perfectly from the start?
Oh, like probably all of them.
No,
Probably every single one of them. There has been something that has probably gone wrong at some point. There probably maybe one or two have gone perfectly the way I plan them to go. But yeah, there's, and I think this is an important piece that you bring up because there are lessons in the failure, right? And so if I'm not willing to fail, I'm not willing to learn. If I'm not willing to learn, how can I grow my online tutoring business?
right.
And so we do have to step into failure. And I think there's a smart way to step into failure and a not so smart way to step into failure. And I think like the people that are joining us right now, and you're joining us right now with our Jumpstart program, the
Mhm.
people that are jumping into the Jumpstart Your Online Tutoring Business program, um, they are stepping into fear the right way. They're like, you know what? I don't really know what actions to take. And so I'm going to join this course where
Mhm.
they're going to guide me through these actions step by step so that I can begin taking them, right? Because a lot of times we think, oh, I don't know what actions to take. I don't know what to do. And lots of you guys are here from that group or who have been through that group. Those of you who are just hearing about the group right now for the first time, I have to apologize to you because it's closed right now. The doors will not be opening for another 8, 9, 10 weeks. So, um, but there is definitely that difference of being able to fail forward and
Mm.
learn from those failures so that you can be successful. And I read one time, and I don't remember if it was inside of this book or chapter, it said the only difference between those that are successful or not is the people that were successful were willing to fail more.
Hmm.
And it's so true.
I'm actually reading another book right now. It is I kind of stumbled upon it, but it has been life changing for me, and it's called How to Be an Imperfectionist. And the cover of the book has the word perfectionist crossed out and then imperfectionist written in. And it's just all about the way we think about something being successful. If we're a perfectionist, which I often struggle with, we will procrastinate because we're just not sure we're going to be able to get it perfect. And then
Right.
we end up doing nothing. Whereas imperfectionist does action right away and then deals with whatever comes up and then takes action. And it's just moving and moving, continuing to take action.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that has just been life changing for me anyway.
Oh, I think I'm the biggest imperfectionist there could possibly be because I'm just like you said, like it's like
You
you
are.
take action. It's like it's not like you set out to make mistakes, right? Like nobody sets out to make
Right, right.
mistakes, but we are going to make mistakes, and then what are you going to do because of them? For instance, as I was onboarding this new group of jump starters that were coming with us. I forgot to set up the email autoresponder so that it hooked into the system. And then when I did finally get it hooked up, it had some of the wrong dates. And it was like, okay, fix this one, fix that one, and let's move on.
Yeah,
Things just happen, right? And I think it's better to kind of put yourself out there and allow those natural imperfections to show, but not slow you down.
right, right. And, putting yourself out there, putting yourself on a Facebook Live, that's really putting yourself out there. People are seeing it. And so you fear, what are they going to, what if something happens? What if something goes wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Well, something will go wrong. You can count on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you bring up such a good point, and this actually comes over to the. He says that we need to isolate our fear, and we then need to take the appropriate action. Right. So we have
Uh-huh.
to really be able to decide what are the action cures for fear. Now, the action cures for fear. These are the things that actually fertilize fear: indecision, postponement. Those fertilize fear, but action cures fear. And then on page 54, there's actually a list here of, like, number one says embarrassment because of personal appearance. And he's like, well, you could do something about that. Improve it. Go to the barber shop or the beauty salon.
Yeah.
Shine your shoes. Get your clothes clean, pressed in general. Practice better grooming. It doesn't always take new clothes. Just think of, okay, so if I'm not happy with my appearance, what can I do about my appearance? Maybe I can add a fun hat. Maybe I can, just do something that just makes me feel good about myself because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. People care more about what you have to say than what you look like.
Right.
The other one is the fear of losing a student. Okay, now
Mm-hmm.
I restated that because he said an important customer, but I'm going to put this in fear of losing a student. Okay, well, that's a natural fear, okay? That, like, over time, you are going to lose students because that is, at some point, you work yourself out of a job. That's
Mm-hmm.
just that
Yeah.
that's the nature of the whole entire
Yep.
thing. Yes, you are going to lose a student, but there's going to be another student who's going to come into the place. So you have two choices. You can either go on out and decide which marketing tactics am I going to use to be able to get more students, or you can work doubly hard to give better service to that current student that you have so you don't lose them.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty plain and simple. He says
Yep.
fear of failing an examination. Now, I feel like our students go through this kind of a fear, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
you deal with this all of the time. I deal with the younger kids. They're not so concerned about their grades and their state tests as much as their parents are. But
Mhm.
what have you noticed about the fear that our students are feeling when it comes to tests? The older students, those middle school, high school students.
Yeah, high school students, especially on what they call the higher stakes tests, SAT, ACT. I was working with a student this past spring who was taking AP stats, and she was terrified of doing poorly on the test. And so a lot of it was when you are letting fear take over rather than taking action, then you shut down your ability to think. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of the time we talked, it was about strategies to help her to just calm down that inner critic or that voice that's saying that you can't handle this, you can't handle this. Um, in fact, that's actually what my free download is 5 strategies for overcoming test anxiety, because it is such a uh, prevalent thing for students.
I'm curious to know, did you have the same action point that our author David Schwartz had? So his his suggestion, his action point is convert worry time into study time.
Yeah, yeah, that's part of it.
That is part of it, right? Hello, Kathy. We're so glad you are joining us. We've got other people who have joined us as well. Yes, I think we should all get a mohawk. By the way, Matt, I think that would look great on us. We have Esme in the house who specializes in all things reading, particularly reading intervention. Awesome. So glad that you are here. We have Tisha. We have Mim, Brenda. So thanks you guys for joining us. So it's great for us to all be able to get together in this one spot and be able to chat about these kinds of fears that are normal fears that we have, our students have, and how do we get on the other side of it. And the author here, David Schwartz of The Magic of Thinking Big, there's a link inside of the description of this video, so if you want to go there and get your free copy, you can. But his whole thing is the only way to fight fear is through action. Okay, so fear of things that are totally beyond your control. This honestly reminds me of the Serenity Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the first thing that comes to my mind because his action is prayer. And I've
Mm-hmm.
really been struggling with this. I don't know if you've struggled with this at all, but with some of the decisions that people are making right now with coronavirus and just kind of putting themselves into, I feel like, dangerous situations. They don't feel like they're dangerous situations.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of watching some of the actions that people are taking. And I've realized that, well, I have a fear. I have a fear of being able to get the disease and pass it on to my loved ones who don't have very good health. And I think at the end of the day, yes, I can make smart choices by putting myself in situations where I don't increase my chances of getting it. But then at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, I can also pray for those people that are putting themselves in those kinds of situations. Pray that there is a vaccine that comes very quickly so that we can move past this. I almost thought, like, if they would to inject people with it, like that, they talk about like herd immunity. I'm like, I would like volunteer to be part of herd immunity. Like if they were like, we're going to inject this in 70% of the population, I would like raise my hand and be like, inject me and I'll keep myself safe and I won't go buy anybody. So that like we can move into herd immunity, but that's not
Yeah.
a solution that people have come on up with, but I'd be willing to do that. But that's not an action step I can take. So right now it looks like
Right.
it's prayer, keeping myself safe. What are your thoughts about that fear that people are having with things that are beyond your control in general?
In general, um, I think it's very similar to what you're saying. It's just to kind of ask yourself, what can I control? I can't control what other people do,
Mm-hmm.
the choices other people make. I can control my environment somewhat. I can say, okay, I just choose to keep away from those people. Um, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But yeah, so when I see people that looks like that's a little bit too much. There's no social distance there. I have to kind of look at it. Well, they're looking at it from their perspective, of all of their life experiences and everything they're going through now. And maybe for them, they need that because they've been isolated and their mental state is low.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an equally dangerous thing is,
Yeah.
do we let our mental state go so bad that, that's life threatening, or do we go out? And so you have to kind of balance and think about which is the best choice for me. And
Mm-hmm.
so then I don't get mad at people who are, because that's my first reaction is, how dare they,
Yes,
walk on
I know.
face,
Well, and
and they're
I
not thinking about it.
well, and I was even like mad at my mother-in-law because she's like, "Yeah, I'm not fearful of any of this." And like they're in that age range where they are putting themselves in harm. And I was just
Mhm.
angry with her. I was so mad at her
Mhm.
because she doesn't want
Yeah.
to take the proportions. And her whole thing is, if I was meant to die, then I'm gonna die. And I was just like, but that seems irresponsible. But you know what? I do. I need to keep my judgments out of it. I need to allow people to have their thoughts,
It's
their
hard though.
feelings, protect themselves, love them, pray for them, move on, and continue to do the things that are important for me. The other one
That
is that
reminded
fear
me.
of what other people may say. So
Yep.
he says, make
Mhm.
sure that you plan to do what you plan to do is right, then do it. No one ever does anything worthwhile for which he's not criticized. Oh my gosh, you guys, I get criticized on a daily basis. So, I definitely know that this is something that I need to walk through, and I've realized that putting myself out there on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, and sharing my thoughts and opinions opens me up to be criticized more. However, I also know that I can't be found by the people I was meant to help if I don't put myself out there. And so I'm willing to take that next step and be criticized for helping
Hmm.
others.
Oh, I like that, because if you can think of it as, I have a higher purpose here, then it's not as hard. It's not as hard to take the criticism, because it's not about you. You're, like you said, we're out trying to help people, help students be successful. Who knows, the person we help might be the person who um, finds a cure for the coronavirus or something.
Totally.
Um, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. So our purpose is higher than the criticism, and we have to kind of see beyond that. Kind of like in the video that you shared, Max, with Will Smith jumping out of the plane, even though all of his fears, all of his thoughts, all of his doubts were keeping him from wanting to do it, and then boom, he does it, and then it was like he feels this exhilaration, right? It's the same kind of feeling. Like you can't get on that other side of being book solid if you don't put yourself out there. The other one he had is fear of people. You'd be surprised at how many tutors do have a fear of other people. Oh, we have a frozen Max here. Max will get unfrozen in a minute, or he'll join us back on in. But a lot of people do have a fear of other people. They have a fear of other tutors, and they'll say things like, "Oh, well, but that tutor's been in business for so long," or "There's been so many other tutors that have." Um, that are out there. I can't compete, and who would hire me, right? So it's almost like that thought that we had last week, where it was that we think lower of ourselves and higher of other people. And we need to kind of put it all into perspective. That other person is just another human being. They're pretty much just like you and me, right? So never think I can't go out there and compete because there's a Joanne Kaminski out there in the world. Absolutely not. Everybody is going to like who you are for your own things. So he gives us 2-step procedure to cure fear and win confidence. 1, isolate that fear, pin it down, determine exactly what you're afraid of. Then number 2, take action. There's some kind of action for any kind of fear. And so my action right now is I have to have acceptance for how other people are choosing to behave. And 2, the other thing that I have to do is pray. But when it comes to my business, there's even so many more actions that I can be taking, right? I can. I hear this all the time from tutors. They say things like, well, I know how to tutor, but I don't know how to market myself. I get that. I didn't know how to market myself in the beginning either. But I purchased the programs that allowed me to learn the next thing that I needed to learn. So I decided who I wanted to be my teacher. And then I would either purchase a course or hire them directly to work with me. And those are different choices that we can make along that line so that we can continue to not have that fear. We don't know what action to take, right? Like, oh, well, I don't know what action I should be taking today. But if we're putting ourselves in a position where we are amongst other online tutors, you're going to know what actions to take more frequently. I so agree. We can control what we can control. Keep marketing even when your schedule is full. Currently tutor 15 hours. That's awesome. And so, Esme, that's an incredible point that you have brought up there. That one of the things that I tell people, one of the action things is how many students do you want is the amount of hours that you're going to put in marketing your online tutoring business. And so you're going to want to keep as soon as you get a student, you can take an hour off. If they're an hour student, if they're a 2 hour student, then you take that hour off, right? And you keep going and going and going until you're left at the bottom. You're at that, I've got the 15 hours. I'm good right here. But then you lose that student, right? So you build in another hour of putting yourself out there. Let's say you lose 2 students, you put yourself out there for 2 more hours each week to be able to fill that spot. And eventually you're going to get right back to where you were at. You're going to be book solid. It helps to have like some way to be able to get content out on a weekly basis. That really helps. And you just started creating content, Max, for your business, right?
Yes. I did a couple of blog posts and, some Facebook Lives.
Mm-hmm. And how's that been going for you?
Pretty good. The blog post I did was basically I had someone that I know interview a couple of my students that, some of my more successful students, and ask them certain key questions about me as a tutor and, what set me apart. And then just posted that on my website.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've also been taking that content and repurposing it, posting it on my Facebook page. And, I literally could post that same content just about anywhere.
Yeah, LinkedIn has a nice spot, like a LinkedIn publisher where you can put some information. You could take like that blog post, post it right inside
Mhm.
of there as well. You're right. There's so many different ways. Like I can take one piece of content, and a lot of people, this used to be an old strategy, like take that one piece of content and share it everywhere. But now like the different social media sites and tools, they don't really play like that. They all have like their
Mhm.
different kinds of rules. Like if I'm doing a Facebook live stream, I can't then just take that Facebook live stream and throw it into Twitter and expect it to do well. It's not really going to get a lot of response in Periscope. So,
Mhm.
I can't just take that video that I've just done and just throw it into YouTube and just be like, okay, well, I did the Facebook live stream. Now I'm just going to throw it inside a video inside of YouTube. You can, but it's going to work a whole lot better if you're live on both YouTube and on Facebook at the same time because you can address both audiences using a tool like Restream or OBS, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you to be able to do
Mhm.
that. So I like how you're thinking about the different ways, like in my blog post, and then sending that on out to people. The video, you can even take like the live stream or the video, and you can embed that now inside of your blog post after you've done it, and repurpose it that way. Kind of bring more life to it. Even
Yeah.
tracking the views of the different blog posts and seeing, okay, which ones are getting the most views and why,
Mhm.
and then adding on to that your freebie so
Oh,
that
yeah.
people can get onto
Yeah.
your freebie list and get on your email list. So
Well,
it
by the
definitely
way,
helps.
can I put in a shameless plug for myself?
Sure.
I was just going to say, if you are in the blogging class and you're interested in what my blog looks like, I don't think it fits in necessarily with Suzanne's course, but if you're thinking about, oh, I could interview one of my students and put it on there, go to my website and feel free to take a look at it. It's maxmathtutoring.com.
Awesome. Awesome. And that is content that we can put up there, right?
Yeah.
You take in your students. A lot of people say, well, I really struggle with being able to get my students to leave like a video testimonial. And a great way to do it is to be able to interview them and share
Hmm.
what has been the secrets to their success. Whether it be
Hmm.
with the parent, with just the student, you could do that as well. You could write a blog post with all of those experiences, not do it on video, right? And you've got some more proof. One of the things that people tell me all the time why they hired me was because of all of the great reviews that I had.
Hmm.
And I always try to make sure that I keep them up to date so
Yeah,
that there's
up to
always
date.
new ones there as well. So it's not always like, oh, well, we're looking at reviews from 6 years ago, Joanne.
Yeah. Great tutor from 2010.
Right, exactly, exactly. So you always want to have some like freshened, testimonials
Right.
up there and that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I ended up doing a blog post once about one of my students. Her name was Ruby, and I loved her so much. She was so great. She ended up the end of the school year. Um, she was at the bottom 25% of her class. Her mom wanted tutoring over the summer. She was a first grade student going into second grade. By the time she went to second grade, she was above grade level. Well, mom
Whoa.
contacted me a year ago to tell me the great grades that she was continuing to get and um, how that continued to impact her. That help impacted her throughout her career, and I thought that was really
Yeah.
sweet. And I just got another. So I wrote a blog post about that, and then I
Yeah.
just got from one of my other students that she has a. I worked with her when she was in second grade, and she now has a 3.7 in high school. And the mom's like, thank you so
Woo.
much. The results of the work that you did are long lasting. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like even those kinds of
Great.
stories are something to talk about. And then some people they'll be like, but I don't have any testimonials. I haven't gotten started yet. What would you suggest to somebody like that?
Um, well, maybe you could just offer, uh, find somebody you know and say, hey, I'd like to practice out my tutoring on you and
Mm-hmm.
tell me what you think.
Yeah,
That might be one idea you
absolutely.
can do.
Yeah, exchange it, right? So like, hey, I'd be more than willing to help you for a testimonial. The other thing that you can do is have people vouch for you, people you've worked with. They can leave what their experience was
Hmm.
like working with you. And that's just
Hmm.
another way. It's not like a testimonial of your tutoring necessarily, but it could
Tutoring.
be of your
Yeah.
teaching, right? Or different college professors who've got somebody who's gotten to see your work ethic.
Hmm.
That's what people are looking for as well. So while you may be
Yeah.
just getting started, that shouldn't stop you from being able to get that kind of review from people that know you. I did that when I got started on
Sure.
LinkedIn. I grabbed the principal that I was working with at the time, and we ended up, she ended up leaving a review, even though, we weren't working together anymore, of just what it was like to be able to work with me. Well, thanks you guys so
Maybe
much for
you,
joining us here. We're going to be
okay.
doing chapter. I know you got to head out. You got a student right now, so do I. We're going to
Hmm.
be doing How to Think Big, chapter 4 next week. So we've gotten some of the junk out of the way. We've cleared it so that now we can move into the first step of thinking big. And he's going to share with us how to do that. So come join us. If you don't have a link to the book, click on it, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. And thanks for joining us, Max.
Thanks, Joanne.